I'm Mark Ballard. Fall is in the air. We've got to get our front doors ready to usher in the season. Today I'm going to show you how to take some greens like pines and magnolia leaves and ferns and all kinds of cones and berries and create this beautiful wreath. The first things we do with anything is go ahead and get our greens established. This wreath just is going to have a little bit more greens than normal. So we're going to come in to give it some wow and some darkness, some rich green and shiny green to the magnolia leaves right off the bat. I don't want it totally symmetrical either, so we're going to vary where we put them. So you can actually form it into, you know, not just a flat shape, but a rounded shape so we can get 3D. I'm going to add the rest of these magnolias and then we're going to go to another texture. I've got all the magnolia leaves securely glued to the grapevine wreath. Now I'm all about texture, y'all know that, so we're starting with a different kind of green, a little mossier green. This is more of an airy fern. It's hard to believe, even up close, that that's not real, isn't it, Larry?
Looks great.
So what this does is we're going to soften the edges. I'm going to kind of go behind where we attach the magnolia leaves. And just put these in here. We don't want them being overpowering, but we do want to make this look like it's a natural and real fresh wreath. Everybody wants their wreaths to look real. You know, there's two ways you can go with a wreath. You can go with a whimsical wreath like we do at Christmas sometimes, where they're, you know, obviously they're not real. We're just dealing with some pretty colors. We're dealing with some glitter. Of course, glitter's not nature. It is in this house, right, Leah? But, you know, then other times we want things to look like we have gone and actually gathered the greens and the greenery and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, actually made it from that. We want it to look like when people pass our front door, we want to think, oh, they've got a fresh wreath on their door. This is what we're doing today. We're trying to emulate freshness. What a neat way to do. And, you know, again, I'm ignoring the fact that we're working with, you know, a total circle. We're letting this stuff spill out in different directions. We're letting it totally act like it was almost growing out of the grapevine. Because that's going to, I'll hold it up in a second so you can see the whole thing. That's what's going to give us the look and appearance of fresh. Okay, so looking good. We're just getting started. Okay, next. I still want to keep some rich color. I've got to feed my glue gun. Still want to use some fresh color. I mean, some rich greens. And you know, pine, sometimes we think about pine as being totally a Christmas thing. But as you know, we have some pine trees around here because a lot of them have fallen during all these storms we've had of late. So I do think it's pretty to get, this is again a different color. You know, we got the shiny magnolia leaves, we got the feathery fern, we got the pine, this rich green, thick, you know, pine that we can put in, and I think it's great. It's in nature, it's out there, you know, let's use it. So, I'm going to come right here and I'm going to allow this to even stick out even further. It might be grabbing me during the show, but it's here. So I got this on a big limb. Faux, and just cut it apart, because to me, you know, it's hard to make a wreath if you don't get things into a manageable size. And again, out it goes. We want it natural, we want it fun. Now, as always, here's one more piece like that, so that's 3 pieces like that. I don't want it to be all one kind of pine, because, you know, we're doing a wreath that we want to be all kinds of textures, all kinds of greens. They do have big stems, these pine pieces. But nothing that a 1/4 cup of hot glue will not hold. So, I also like this pine. It's got a little touch of a pine cone is the word I'm looking for. And, you know, it's neat because it has a little touch of new growth. And this is really neat to let go. We're going to turn it around here. This is grabbing me. Go spring forth, even though it's fall, outside of our parameters. Isn't that cool? Just try to think outside the box. We're all so used to being coloring in the lines. We're all so used to, staying within the circle, whatever, staying between the lines on the road, this, that, and the other. But why not, when we create, let all that go away and let's just think, what are we going to, we're not confined to this circle. We're not getting graded. We're not getting judged. We're just creating. And when we do that from our heart, that's when we do things that are good. People, I promise you, everything I've ever done, created, or baked. Liz was talking about the coconut cake I made the other day. Anytime I've ever wanted something myself to keep it, somebody else wants it. Somebody else wants to buy it. Somebody else wants a piece of it. It's always like that. And that's because when we put our heart into things, it shows. So here's one that's even smaller. Different color, deeper color, and if you I lost one there. If you lose one, you can tuck it someplace else. So we're going to just put it right back on. And we're going to put this at the top. Right in this area. Now, I'm fixing to add some other colors and things now. So we set the greens. We've got this underway. We're fixing to add some pop. I've added the rest of my pine and little pine cones and spriggly pieces of pine. And then for yet a different texture, I went to add a couple of these. This is like a fern frond that looks like it's starting to age, which would be great for fall. And it's still got the little curled up where it's unraveling. I love that. So I put one right there just because it's a different color green. And then we'll put one over here. Always put a little touch of hot glue. You don't have to, put a lot, but a little touch to kind of hold it into the grapevine frame. Otherwise, it may end up on the ground or in your front door, or in your house or your neighbor's house or someplace you don't want it. Let's have an update. Whoops. It's coming and go. Okay, now that we got all the greens established, I decide which way I want this to be top and bottom. Let's see. I think I'm going to go with this. That's going to be kind of our top, pointing straight at you, Liz. Of course it is, because this is going to be the pine that keeps stabbing me. The lady requested, she's really into purples, and so what I immediately thought of for another texture of green and purple were these kind of elongated kind of flowers that look like they're on the drying process. And we're going to add these at various places just to give a little snap of purple. Aren't those pretty? I love the fact the more interesting your wreath will be is the more different textures and even if you did a totally green wreath, because I was liking this just totally green, then you would have to depend on texture to make your statement because you won't have any color. Color lets us make a statement. Sometimes we can almost cheat with color because it helps us make a statement just by the fact that it's a beautiful color as a color that really jumps out. Other times when you're working, it's sort of like drawing with a pencil, just a graphite pencil versus painting. You really have to work if you're going to render something in a graphite pencil to make somebody believe. I remember my art teacher saying that even though it's black and white and various shades of gray, the people looking at that have got to believe that that's an apple or believe that's something else because you almost interpret the color by the way you render it. Same thing with this. If we're just dealing with one color, monochromatic, then we've got to make sure that, we have got varied all the greens. And, although a total magnolia wreath would be pretty, leafed wreath would be pretty, I love the idea of having some of these other things. Sometimes I might want to clump two together, sometimes just one. Just let that imagination run wild. Okay, now, Let me give you a, oh, wait, we got one more thing. I just vacuumed in here. I think we'll have to do it again before Deborah gets back. Okay. There. Coming together. That purple just snaps, right? All right. To soften it and to give a little bit different shade of purple, we're going to do this heathery. It's also soft. It kind of reminds me, Liz, of the fern that we used before. The green just plain fern. But this is purple, but it gives a totally softness that will really look good intermixed with this green. I'm going to add the rest of this, and then I'm going to show you how you can really get things popping. Just a little touch of glue, and tuck it in. So now that we've got our heathery purple coming together, each little step. Think about it as a layering process. We started with a grapevine wreath. We layered with the gum magnolia leaves. We layered with fern. We're working our way up. We're building our way up to where we get to the point where we put the pop color and, you know, kind of where our bow would be or something. We're going to do some kind of cluster of something. Okay, now we're going to, let's do these next. I love these. These are berries. These look real. We definitely, with fall, some sort of berries. We got some pine cones, but we also want some berries. And these, in particular, are neat because they're variegated. From a, you can see they're kind of a lighter color red, graduating to a darker color red. Again, totally realistic. I use these in real fresh arrangements I do, and this is exactly like them. I mean, if you put these side by side and took a picture, you would not be able to tell that these were not the ones. They even, I mean, they do the leaves exactly the same way. But touches of these berries just give us another. Just love these. But I'm not putting them. Now we're starting to get to where we're, you know, picking and choosing where we're putting things because we've already balanced all our color, our stuff around. Now we're just coming in for accent places. Okay, here's one thing being an artist that I like. A lot of y'all want to know why my stuff looks different. Sometimes it's because I'm an artist. When you're an artist and you know about color, you try to combine things. Because remember this was just purple. That was like a deeper shade of purple. Zoom in, Liz. These are purple, green, and a little touch of that red. You see that? And then this is like a combination. If you mixed purple and red together, you get kind of that kind of color. So if you work with some of these kind of things, it visually mixes. Not only does it give you different textures, but the colors visually mix so that when you walk up to this wreath, you're thinking, oh, that's such a beautiful palette of colors. You know, it's like, just like if we were painting a background on a painting or whatever, you were working with a variety of colors and using colors just like you would mix with a brush. But instead of mixing with a brush, we're gluing them in here. But all that comes in the choice, you know, when you're making your choices. Which gets me back to a question that I get asked so many times. People just don't know exactly where to start. You know, how do I know, like this lady gave me the parameters of I want purples, reds, and deep rich greens and texture. You know, you have to set some sort of criteria before you go shopping or you'll end up with all kinds of things, none of which match. So you do have to go, it's like going to the grocery store and you're hungry. How many people have done that? It's like you're starving, you're thinking, I want everything. Everything I can find, I want it. Well, the same thing, you want to get yourself a little list, get yourself already thinking. You might want to do some research, look at some wreaths that are maybe online. You may want to study some different, you know, kinds of, you know, ferns or leaves or whatever you're wanting to emphasize. Get all that together. Don't try to go to the store to get your stuff if you haven't done your homework. And once you get in your mind exactly what you want, then, and so I had to go several places. Sometimes you can't find it all at one place. You have to search. You're going to put a little touch of this in. I'm just going to add these just here and there, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you how we're going to add red. Red is the complementary color of green for all the artists out there, and we're going to use it in our wreath. since we're using pine, I'm thinking why not put some pine cones in here. And so we're going to put these at a place where we can group some of our stuff to make it more intense at that place. It's always great to have a focal point that leads the people's eyes to some place where everything's just not, you know, randomly going around. There's some place where you stop, that gets your attention, and you rest there for a second, and then you can go on and think, oh, that's where they either started. I usually finish at those kind of places. You know where everything's happening, and then you just go on about your business. Okay. These are good. Liz called these Moroccan. I don't hear any seeds. These are actually real, some sort of pod. But isn't that very interesting coloration for fall? It's like a very, it almost looks like a feather kind of thing. I'm about to run out of places to put anything, Liz. And then we'll put one more here for the third one. I don't get bogged down in all those, you know, whether something is, you know, even or odd. I guess I do sort of, because right then I was thinking 3, but we'll say the other 2 put someplace else. So really that's 5. So I'm really kind of contradicting myself right here. But they're not going to all be in the same place. You need that. Okay, this is really going to make the wreath come to life. These red berries. And I wanted to show you, sometimes they come on long things and you might not want them that long. I may want this one this long because it's going to be here in the focal point, so I'll be on it later. But you just come to one of these joints that are below and just clip it. That'll be the first thing the eye sees. That splash of red. Liz was saying earlier, I thought this was funny, that, you know, people a lot of times will write me and say, oh, I made a spring wreath and a bird made a nest, and, you know, I could hardly open my front door because I didn't want to disturb the little baby birds and all that. And then, you know, I was saying, you know, your stuff may blow to somebody else's yard, which you'd be like, can I go borrow a cup of sugar and get my leaf back? But Liz was making the comment that sometimes birds will think, oh, I need that little piece of sprig of fern someplace else, and she'll make a nest or something else, and she will see it on her front yard lawn.
I've seen berries like that half eaten.
Let's have a reveal. You ready, Liz?
Ready.
Look how pretty. Doesn't that look real? Just look how pretty this wreath is hanging on the door. It is a great example of something that can take you from fall and lead you into Christmas. I want you to explore thinking outside the box in terms of colors of what you can use with fall and autumn. There's all kinds of things other than just reds and yellows. Go out and create something beautiful, and I'll see you next time.